Have you ever noticed how some people turn up their noses when someone asks what's the weather like today? Or how are you? In the elevator? While most respond automatically, they seem to get stuck, as if they have been caught in a social trap. The eyes run away, the smile is forced, and the answer comes out choppy, okay. But behind this apparent discomfort, there is a psychological universe that few understand and which reveals much more than just a bad mood. Before you think, what a difficult person, let's agree on one thing: there's nothing wrong with hating small talk. It's not a lack of education, nor dislike. It's just an internal warning system that goes off when the brain identifies interactions as unnecessary or false. And, believe me, that says more about how these people process the world than about how they see you. Just imagine, for those who hate small talk, every good morning from the doorman or was the weekend good from your coworker is not a gesture of courtesy, but a small theft of energy. Their brains work like an authenticity detector. If the conversation has no real purpose, exchanging useful information, creating genuine connection, or resolving something, it is classified as social noise. And just as you would ignore a pop-up ad on the internet, they learn to filter these interactions to preserve their attention. But where does this selective filter come from? The answer may lie in 3 deep emotional layers. The first is intolerance of superficiality. People like this tend to value dialogues with substance, those that explore ideas, feelings, or solutions. For them, talking about the climate is like chewing flavorless gum. It takes time, but it doesn't provide food. It's no wonder that many introverts, philosophers, or creatives fall into this category. Their brains crave depth, and small talk sounds like an insult to their emotional intelligence. The second layer is the fear of forced exposure. For those who are reserved, every trivia question is a gateway to dangerous territory. What do you do on the weekend? It may seem harmless, but to them, it's like someone asking, tell me something personal that I can use against you later. The distrust is not with the person, but with the social game, one in which information is currency and vulnerability is a risk. And then there is the third layer, perhaps the most painful, the experience of having been judged in the past. How many times has an honest response, actually, my weekend was bad, been met with a wow, that's boring, or a look of discomfort? The brain registers, if I'm honest, I'll be rejected. So I'd better keep quiet. Over time, even the most innocent questions become landmines, and silence becomes a shield. But here's the fascinating paradox: those who hate small talk are often the ones who need real connection the most. They don't reject human contact, they reject the watered-down version of it. Prefer a comfortable silence to an how are you, empty, because they know that true loneliness is not a lack of people, it is a lack of meaning in interactions. And if you are one of these people, no, you are not antisocial, nor arrogant. You simply operate on a different frequency. While the world applauds the ability to break ice, you understand that ice doesn't always need to be broken, sometimes it's just a protective layer over deep water. And there's no problem waiting for someone willing to dive in with you. The next time someone calls you difficult for not engaging in small talk, remember, you're not being rude, you're being selective. And in a noisy world, knowing how to filter out the noise is a superpower. If this makes sense to you, comment here, what is the small conversation you hate the most? Share with those who also feel this way, and let's normalize the right to not have to talk just for the sake of talking. And if you want more reflections like this, activate notifications so you don't miss upcoming texts. Until next time, or, as you prefer, until the conversation is worth it. Winking face. The silence that speaks louder than the noise. Have you ever noticed how some people don't fill the void with words, but let it breathe? While the world races to avoid silence, turning on music, filling pauses with nervous laughter, or throwing a her, every 2 sentences, they let the air stop. Not because of disinterest, but because they know that what is not said is sometimes what matters most. And no, this is not indifference. It's a form of respect. Respect for the rhythm of the conversation, for the weight of words, for the idea that not all space needs to be occupied. While most are afraid that silence will be interpreted as discomfort, they understand that the real discomfort is in talking for the sake of talking. Think about it. How many times have you heard someone say, I can't stand silence, I need noise? As if the sound was a blanket against loneliness. But what if the problem is not silence, but what we hide in it? Those people who don't fear pauses are often the ones who listen the most, not just to others, but to themselves. They know that behind a distracted ahem there can be a world of unsaid things, and they prefer to wait rather than force a response that doesn't come from the heart. There is a rare emotional intelligence in this. While many use words as crutches to keep from falling into the void, they walk in the dark without fear, because they trust that the light comes when it is time. It's no surprise that they are the first to notice when someone is lying, or when an everything is fine hides a nothing is fine. They read between the lines because they know that life is not only written in ink, but also with pauses. Of course, this comes at a price. In a world that confuses extroversion with competence and talkativeness with intelligence, those who choose silence are often labeled cold, distant, or arrogant. But here's the truth: people who talk little usually think a lot. And in an era of shallow opinions and empty debates, thinking before speaking is not a defect, it is a revolution. If you are one of these people, no, you are not antisocial, you are selective. It's not that you don't like to talk, you just refuse to participate in a theater where everyone repeats the same scripts. He prefers an exchange of glances that says more than 1,000 words, a handshake that's worth more than 10 forced hugs, a shared silence that speaks louder than any monologue. And when someone finally deserves your words, they arrive like water in a desert, precise, necessary, full of meaning. Because you don't throw words to the wind, you plant them, and wait for them to grow. Now tell me, what is the empty phrase you hate hearing the most? How are you? No real interest. We mark that never happens. Comment here, and if you know someone who also hates small talk, share this text with them. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next reflections on what we don't say, but should. Until next time. Or, as you prefer, until the conversation is worth it. Milky Way. Silence is not empty. It is a stage where words rehearse before entering the scene. What if I told you that the people who talk the least are the ones who listen the most to the world? Not the noise of others, but the sound of things that are not said, the sigh between two sentences, the hesitation before a lie, the weight of an okay that is not okay. They capture the subtext of life, that parallel dialogue that happens in looks, in gestures, in the spaces between words. While most drown in monologues disguised as conversation, they are collecting meaningful silences. Because they know, the most honest answers do not come from those who speak, but from those who allow themselves to remain silent. What your silence says about you, without you having to open your mouth. 1. You are an emotional detective. You don't need confessions to understand people. A tone of voice, a posture, a sudden habit, you connect the dots that others ignore. It's like you have a radar for unspoken truths, and that makes you dangerously perceptive in a world that prefers illusions. 2. Your energy is selective, and that's a superpower. You don't waste your presence. It is not antisocial, it is anti-superficiality. Prefer a 10-minute in-depth conversation than 10 hours of small talk. And when you decide to invest your energy in someone, that person feels it. Because you don't give crumbs of attention, you give full presence or nothing. 3. You render the world in 4K while others see it in low resolution. While people reacted to what was said, you look at what wasn't. Your mind is like a video editor. It cuts through the noise, adjusts the focus, and highlights the details that really matter. That's why his opinions, when he finally shares them, sound like revelations. 4. Your silence is a shield, and sometimes, armor. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts. You've learned that loose words can be used against you, so choose carefully who you trust with the keys to your internal world. It's not distrust, it's intelligent self-preservation. 5. You are a beacon for those who also feel too much in a world of too little. People like you recognize each other's silence. They don't need to explain why they prefer a night at home to a crowded party, or why a "how are you" can be overwhelming. You understand each other without words, and that creates bonds stronger than any forced conversation. Society judges you, but history understands you. You may have already heard. You're very quiet. Is everything okay? As if silence were a symptom of illness. Say something. As if noise were mandatory. You're hard to read, as if transparency were your debt. But here's the truth they don't see. The great strategists, artists, and thinkers of history were masters of silence. Da Vinci spent hours observing before painting. Einstein said that creativity comes from silent idleness. Even the best comedians know that the pause before the joke is what makes the audience laugh. You are not antisocial. You are anti-noise. It's not cold. It's selective. It is not turned off. It's deep. And in a world that speaks without thinking, posts without feeling and judges without knowing, your silence is not weakness. It's resistance. What happens when you finally speak? Imagine a silent library, books lined up, dust dancing in the light. Suddenly, a voice. Not a scream, not a whisper, a sentence. Just one. But so precise that everyone stops to listen. So are you. When you decide to speak, your words have weight. They are not thrown to the wind, they are seeds planted with intention. And those around feel this. It may take a while, but when you open your mouth, people unconsciously lean forward. Because they know, if you're talking, it's because it's worth listening. A challenge for you, and only you. This week, pay attention to other people's silences. Those 3 seconds of pause before a response. The way someone looks at the floor when they lie. The way a friend doesn't ask how are you, when you know the answer would be painful. Write down what you observe. You will be surprised at how much truth there is in what is not said. And if you want to share your discoveries, leave them in the comments or keep them to yourself. We understand. For anyone who needs to hear this today, if you feel weird about preferring silence, if you've ever been called weird for not following the social script, if sometimes you think that no one understands you, know that you are not alone. There is a whole tribe of people who also prefer a face-to-face conversation over a party full of empty laughter. Who also feels more than he speaks. Who also chooses quality over quantity in words, in people, in moments. And if today you feel invisible, remember. The things most powerful in the universe are silent. Gravity. The growth of trees. Love that doesn't need to be announced. You are like them. And the world needs people like you, less noise, more meaning. Now tell me. What is the worst thing someone has said about you for being quiet? Are you boring? You don't like anyone? It seems like you're always being judged. Comment here or, if you prefer, save this text to reread when you need to remember its value. And if you know someone who is also a master of silences, share this with them. Sometimes a simple I understand can be the loudest thing someone hears all day. Until next time. Or, as you would say, until it's worth it. Sparkles. The silence that speaks louder than any word. Have you ever noticed how the world seems to be afraid of silence? As if the void between one sentence and another was a black hole to be filled at any cost, with forced laughter, comments about the weather, or that so, how are you, automatic that doesn't even wait for a response. But you breathe in this space. Not like someone who suffocates, but like someone who finally finds oxygen after a stuffy room. And that's why it bothers you. Because in a society that confuses noise with importance, speech with depth, and popularity with value, his stillness is not just different, it's subversive. What they don't understand, but you do. When they call you cold, what they're really saying is, you don't play by the rules of my game. When they label you antisocial, what they mean is, your presence forces me to face my own emptiness. And when they whisper that you seem like you're always judging, it's actually their annoyance at not being able to decipher you. Why don't you deliver your emotions in ready-made packages, with a gift bow and a "here's my heart, please handle with care" card? You keep it. Not out of fear, but out of respect. Respect for what you feel, which doesn't fit into 280 characters. Respect for those in front of you who deserve more than small conversations. Respect for the moment, which, sometimes, just calls for a witness, not a clown. The science of his silence, yes, he has a name. Psychologists call reflective introversion that kind of stillness that is not shyness but deep processing. Your brain doesn't filter information on the surface, it dives in, connects dots, questions. While others are already on the third subject, you are still taking the first one apart, like a Swiss watch, piece by piece. And that, my friend, is power. Because in a world where everyone talks, those who truly listen hold the answers. You notice the tone of voice that betrayed the lie. You see the look that fled when the subject hurt. You feel the energy of the environment before anyone even opens their mouth. It's not magic. It's attention. And pay attention, today, it is the rarest coin on the planet. What your silence says about you, without having to say anything. 1. You value the essence, not the performance. You don't need a stage to feel alive. A late-night conversation with a kindred spirit is worth more than 1,000 likes on a posed photo. 2. You understand that words have weight. Instead of throwing syllables to the wind, you choose yours like someone selecting precious stones for a necklace. Each one has to shine for a reason. 3. You are a beacon for those who also feel lost in the noise. People like you are safe havens. Others come to you not by what you say, but by what you allow them to feel. Here, I can be me. Without masks. 4. You know that real impact doesn't make a fuss. The most profound revolutions in history began in silence. A scientist in his laboratory, a writer at the table, a leader listening before acting. The trap they want you to fall in. They'll tell you that you need to loosen up more, that life is too short to be so serious, that no one likes someone who doesn't talk. Lie. What they can't stand is that you don't need them to feel complete. Because when you feel good about yourself, you stop being a hostage to other people's opinions. And that's scary. A society that profits from insecurities doesn't want you to discover that. Solitude can be sacred. Silence can be company. Other people's approval is a bonus, not a necessity. For when the world insists on not understanding you, keep this as a mantra. I'm not antisocial. I'm selective. I'm not boring. I'm deep. I'm not cold. I am whole. And if my voice is rare, it's because my every word carries the weight of 1,000 silences that came before. An invitation, only if you want. If you've ever been misunderstood for being quiet, comment here which sentence hurt the most and how you turned it into strength. If you know someone who is also a master of silence, share this with them. Sometimes an "I understand you" is the only sound we need to hear. And if today you felt invisible, remember. The stars don't make noise. The oceans do not scream their depth. And the best stories, they always begin with a sigh, never with a scream. Until next time. Or, as you would say, until it makes sense. Milky Way.